It wasn't easy in the early days because we didn't have a lot of resources available to us. When I started, there was really no legal tech to speak of.
During those early days, did you face resistance or skepticism?
Of course, all of the above. Legal operations didn't exist in the 90s. I think it was looked at as a legal administrative function.
So you were like sort of an OG.
I think I'm definitely an OG, for sure. I laughed when you said, how long have you been in legal ops? Because I was in legal ops before it was a thing, or I was thinking about it from that perspective.
Take one.
As we've all kind of forged our own path along this road of legal operations, I've had people I could reach out to on a regular basis to figure out what should this look like or how do we get there.
When I went into legal operations, it really tugged at me as a meaningful opportunity to change things for the better.
I was always fascinated by technology, but like, how do we adapt for the future? Because you always have to think about what's been done, then what are you doing, and then where might that lead?
I just remember thinking that. I had no idea what operations was. I had no idea what legal technology was. I just knew that there was like this pain, and I was like, there's gotta be a better way of doing this. And I think that, to me, encapsulates the birth of legal operations. There has got to be a better way to do this.
Legal ops is focused on making legal departments or law firms or lawyers or legal professionals work faster.
It is systematizing the way that legal expertise gets out to the business.
It's leveraging sound, fundamental business principles in the context of a legal organization.
This is the bridge, the connective tissue between legal and the rest of the company. That's what legal operations is.
Law is important. The work that lawyers do is important. I did not know anything about the practice of law when I started. I came from a very small town in Pennsylvania. I came to California as really on a whim, and I assumed I'd only be coming out to California and be staying here a year or two and then going back east, but I really fell in love with it here. It was scary joining as a very young person this really well-established organization, working with a bunch of lawyers, and it was professionally the best thing I ever did. The link between that and boxing is really hard, and it's intimidating, and you have to push yourself to do well. I like that. I like the challenge. Delivery of legal services needed disruption terribly. It was inefficient. It was so people-driven. With this new technology that was coming out and new types of service providers, there was a way to do it better. And I knew that we would be the ones driving that change.
As a paralegal at a law firm, a lot of what I did was manual tasks. I would go into rooms like this one that were filled from top to bottom with boxes of documents. And there was a litigation going on, and the paralegals were responsible for reviewing the documents, understanding what was in them, and then reporting that out for the purposes of litigation. What client wants to pay for this?
Here I was working for a software company that was selling enterprise legal solutions, web-based solutions in the 90s, which didn't really exist yet. And here it was for the legal department to Fortune 100 companies. And one of the issues at most of my clients was they had an admin who they promoted to lead this administrative. I think it was looked at as a legal administrative function. So it was hard to make projects successful because you didn't have a single person with a seat at the table championing the project to make it successful.
I was in law school after I got off the surfboard and finally made it my way to law school in the late 90s. And there was absolutely no discussion in any of my law school classes about how to leverage technology to make you a better lawyer.
Yeah.
Not at all.
No.
There was zero discussion about process. There was zero discussion about how people could do things outside of the law to make law better.
Law departments have a lot of work that needs to be done, right? And as companies are growing, there's more and more work that has to be done. The economy has shifted so much since 2004, so companies have had budget constraints. They've had to, unfortunately, lay off people. So they've had to figure out, how do we do more with same or more with less? Now, the law firms weren't coming in with any solutions. They just wanted to keep running the billable hour because they wanted to just stick to the traditional way of doing things.
The term legal operations, I'm not even sure if it was a thing yet at that time. Back in the late 90s, the tech companies on the West Coast and some of the banks on the East Coast had CFOs that started paying attention to legal spend.
In the mid-90s, you saw the entrance of Big Four actually into the legal transformation space as a place that hadn't spent a lot of time developing business acumen and capabilities within corporate law departments. Generally, they were offshoots of larger transformation projects that were in companies as they were trying to drive towards overall operational efficiencies. Prior to that, in-house counsel roles weren't generally in favor. The route to a legal profession was through a law firm. But as that started to transition more towards in-house, you started to see higher pedigreed individuals enter into the C-suite and be considered more of the C-suite. That was generally driven by more complicated or complex organizations who were facing increased regulatory pressure and or increased global complexities.
Legal ops sort of grew out of a need, right? And the need was that legal departments, particularly in-house legal departments, were growing, were becoming much more specialized, and were moving faster than ever before. You know, at that time, you had the advent of the commercial internet, you had Enron and the focus on the legal team as a partner in driving ethics within the company, and a need to be more involved in everything, more specialized than it had been, and ultimately larger and more collaborative than it had been. But that meant chaos. We were struggling with basic things like just getting the bills paid. Bills would come out as a paper bill, and often there would be an umbrella bill that just said legal services, and it would list 10,000 things. It would be 900 pages long. It was just becoming very, very difficult to track spend. And when the business would say, well, how much have we spent on X, or where are we on Y, or are we driving the same terms? The answer was, I don't know. The business is moving very quickly. The law is changing rapidly. It's basically uncontrolled chaos. Everything's still sort of in paper. So you're starting to see the first e-billing solutions come online, and people trying to find a way. Let's think about how we can make this. And that was just driving this huge change in how legal functions were beginning to think about it.
A retail store had hired us to do a new technology implementation. I was training a team of lawyers, and one of the lawyers picked up the mouse, was clicking on it, holding it, pointing it at the monitor, saying, what do I do with this moose thing? I just remember thinking, this is never going to work. They weren't using computers at the time, and I was trying to roll out an enterprise web-based matter management system and e-billing tool that they were going to live in day and night. It just was very hard.
Yeah, when there was a lack of community, I honestly felt like I was just completely out there on my own. And I didn't know how to get better. Google didn't exist. What do I need to do to be better at my job? And that was my goal, make no mistake about it. I wanted to serve my legal team as best as I could. So I got a list from my GC and, got some contact information. Sometimes just guessed at their emails, honestly. And I said, this is my job, this is my role. I'm head of legal operations, and these are the things I'm responsible for. Do you have somebody in your organization who does this as well? And most of the time they said, yes, they do have somebody in this role. We had our very first meeting at HP. There were, I think, like 12 of us in the conference room by my desk. Literally, we started with phone calls, and it became immediately clear that other people were struggling with exactly the same thing I was struggling with. So that was the genesis of CLOC. And honestly, I felt like I was home.
It is amazing to be here. There are more than 1,000 people here.
We just held the largest corporate legal operation event in history. Easy, easy, right?
On recording our 100th CLOC Talk episode.
Right here, right now. We are here together in a beautiful new venue with the most vibrant and interesting professional community on the planet. It was just professionals helping professionals because they couldn't find people within their own organizations to really support them because it was such a novel thing that they were doing.
500 to 1,800 to now over 2,000 people come to our annual event. So a lot of growth over the last 10 years, and 2025 marks a decade of progress, not only for CLOC, but in the legal operations industry.
Just being a queer South Asian, I've had a challenging journey, both personally and professionally. And so if I'm part of CLOC, I want to bring that community together. I wanted to create a path for other people just to know that you can be in different careers in legal ops and you can be out and you can be successful.
I think community is important for any profession, but particularly for ours, for the legal operations industry. I think it's important because there's no blueprint to become a legal operations professional or executive. It doesn't exist. We all come to this space from different angles and from diverse backgrounds and diverse walks of life. So because of that, people can really lean on each other for support, as well as develop their own blueprint as they navigate their own career trajectory.
Something happens when I hear a really good piece of music. It reverberates inside of me. And I not only hear it, but I feel it. My brain starts to track it and wants to figure it out. I'm the kind of person who is down for all the change. I am in the front seat studying how do you make music with technology and software. Every iteration of legal ops and the solution set is different. You know, it's very similar to music where you take all the theory or practice or hours played that you have and you look at this legal department and go, well, how do I transpose that and take their needs and their vision and come up with a new solution? So much of the work I've done in legal ops and tech is building software. And it always starts from a blank page. When you bring creativity to that, the blank page doesn't scare you, it sort of energizes you, and it's exciting to start sketching even a minimal piece of software that resolves the problem. I'm learning the legal or finance person's vision of ideal work or how this should flow and work.
The way that you get people to believe in it is by showing, not telling. For example, we rolled out this one tool that allowed us to view billing in real time. So that was really blazing a new trail. And we were doing some things that were very cutting edge at the time. If we hadn't done that 15 years ago and we hit this new age of technology transformation that we're in now without any of that legwork being done over the past decade, where would this industry be?
For so long, I felt like I was the only one doing the job that I was doing. And then when I found my people, it was amazing because I finally had people I could ask questions to. And that's when I really started to realize this is a thing, this is a profession. This is a career path for lawyers who don't really love practicing law, but like the profession of law. This is a career path for business people and IT people and finance people to do something within the profession of law.
I think there comes a point in every profession, and even with technology, where the disruptors become the disrupted. right? And I think maybe that's where the point at Legal Ops has reached, where you've done the easy stuff, haha, not easy, but like you've gotten to a certain point where you've crossed most of the basic hills, and now you've got to tackle some of the more fundamental things about like, okay, now I can implement this technology, but that has human costs, changes to structure, changes to how we operate, right? Changes to what we do. It's just a new mountain to climb.
When I look at it today and back when I first started, it's mind-blowing to see the changes that have happened.